The first cardboard box is already swallowing my framed conservation certificate when Miles Weller summons me to my own office on Monday morning. Pack everything, my brother takes this room today. Behind him, 2 movers are wrapping my desk in a gray blanket. His brother, Nolan, has a tape measure stretched across the wall and a pencil tucked behind one ear. "Walnut shelves," Nolan says, reading the measurement aloud. "Maybe brass rails." My brass nameplate comes off with a tiny metallic scrape. Miles watches the mover lift it and smiles. Then the freight elevator chimes behind them. I step aside as Ruth Bell, the building manager, walks into the hall carrying a paper cup and a ring of keys large enough to anchor a fishing boat. She looks at the movers. She looks at Nolan's tape measure. Then she looks at Miles. "Put the desk down," she says. For one bright second, Miles's face is completely empty. One of the movers lowers his end too quickly. My pencil cup jumps and 3 red grease pencils roll across the floor. "Excuse me," Miles says. "You heard me." Ruth takes a slow sip from her cup. "Who authorized this move?" "I did. Miles Weller, director of Calder Exhibit Services." "I know who you are. I asked who authorized the move. Calder rents the 3rd floor and part of the loading level in a converted paper warehouse near Baltimore's old freight yards. Ruth has managed the building for 14 years. She knows every tenant, every shutoff valve, every dead spot in the security cameras, and every executive who thinks the freight elevator belongs to him because he has learned how to press its button." Miles glances at the movers as if one of them might produce an authorization. The taller man studies the ceiling. Nolan retracts his tape measure with a snap. "We're just switching offices." "No, you're bringing an outside moving company through a freight elevator reserved this morning for a textile delivery on 2. Ruth points at their shirts. "And those men aren't on the building's insurance certificate." "We have insurance," the taller mover says. "I'm sure your mother is very proud." He closes his mouth. Miles steps into the hall. His voice changes, lowering into the calm register he uses when he wants someone to notice that he is remaining calm. "We can settle the elevator issue. This is an internal business matter." That wall he marked isn't. Nolan turns toward the pencil line he made. "What about it?" "Chilled water risers run behind it. You drill for those shelves without approved drawings. You could flood half the archival suites below you." Ruth's eyes settle on the open box at my feet. "And this room is listed as Calder's controlled intake office on your lease writer." Miles looks at me. It is the first time that morning he seems to remember I might know something he does not. I crouch and gather my grease pencils. The red one has rolled beneath Nolan's shoe. He notices, moves his foot, and picks it up for me. "Here," he says. "Thanks." Unlike Miles, Nolan looks faintly embarrassed. He is younger, leaner, and dressed in black from his collar to his boots. His fingers are smudged with graphite. He looks less like a favored relative than a man who has already decided where every lamp should go. Ruth turns to the movers. "You've got 20 minutes to put everything back the way you found it." Miles's jaw shifts. "Mara, did you call her?" "No." That answer bothers him more than a yes would have. I hadn't called Ruth. I had, however, declined to reserve the freight elevator when Miles's assistant sent me a request at 6:48 that morning saying only, "Priority office refresh." The freight elevator requires a vendor name, insurance certificate, load estimate, and destination. I replied with the form. Nobody returned it. At 8:15, the movers arrived anyway. Now they unwrap the desk while Ruth watches. Nolan erases his wall mark with his thumb. Miles stands beneath the green exit sign, taking in the scene as if he is already revising it into a story where he was inconvenienced by inflexible people. My office is 9 feet by 11, with no window and a radiator that knocks whenever the outside temperature drops below 40. It has a dented steel cabinet, 2 visitor chairs that don't match, and a permanent smell of cotton tape. Until this morning, I hadn't realized how much I loved it. The office sits between our receiving bay and the freight elevator because nearly every object entering Calder passes its door. museum crates, framed paintings, carved panels, bronze figures, ceremonial textiles, architectural models, and once a life-sized fiberglass tuna from a maritime exhibit. Nothing moves upstairs until I inspect the exterior, photograph the corners, check the temperature and humidity, assign a yellow Tyvek tag, and record the first handoff. The tuna arrived without fins. The client insisted it had shipped with fins. 3 weeks and 47 emails later, somebody found them in Delaware. That is the kind of mystery my office is built to prevent. Ruth waits until the movers have restored the desk, then hands Miles her card. Send my office the certificate and revised drawings. We'll review them. You'll have them today, he says. I'll have them when I have them. She turns to me. Textiles are coming up at 10. 8 rolling racks. I've got the south side cleared. Of course you do. Miles hears the 2 words. I can tell because his eyes narrow slightly. Ruth leaves. The elevator gate rattles shut behind her. For a few seconds, the 4 of us stand around my newly restored desk. The conservation certificate is back on the wall, crooked. One of the movers has placed my stapler in the pencil cup and my pencils where the stapler belongs. Nolan notices and switches them. Miles says, "Gentlemen, give us a moment." The movers escape with visible relief. Nolan pockets the tape measure. I'll check the riser drawings. You do that, Miles says. There's enough warning in his tone to send Nolan out too. Then it is just Miles and me. He closes the door. The latch catches only if you lift the handle, but he doesn't know that yet. The door drifts open again behind him. He turns, presses it shut, and tries a second time. You have to lift. I've got it. He lifts. Miles has been director for 19 days. Evelyn Calder introduced him at our Friday meeting as the person who would carry the company into its next chapter. She used the phrase, "fresh eyes," 3 times and stood with one hand wrapped around her other wrist, a habit she has when she is trying not to interfere. Evelyn founded Calder Exhibit Services 27 years ago with 1 truck and a rented garage. She can identify 6 kinds of packing foam by touch. She can also avoid an unpleasant conversation with such elegance that you thank her for leaving the room. Miles came from a national event production company. He had run stadium activations, product launches, and touring installations. His first week at Calder, he found a billing error that had cost us nearly $20,000 over 2 years. His second week, he renegotiated our fuel contract and remembered every driver's name. He is competent. That makes this worse. I asked Paula to notify you on Friday, he says. Paula asked me for the square footage of my office. And you didn't wonder why? I thought you were replacing the carpet. The carpet is terrible. It survives pallet jacks. This is what I'm talking about, Mara. He spreads his hands. Everything here is designed around what it has survived. I look at the carpet. Gray squares, darker gray stains, 1 melted patch from a heat gun incident before I was hired. Where do you want the intake station? I ask. We'll put you near purchasing. Upstairs? It's an open workspace. Receiving is down here. There's a staircase. A courier isn't going to wait while I come down 2 flights. The couriers barely wait while I'm standing in front of them. You can keep a mobile station in the bay. A cart? A proper mobile station. I picture my camera, meter, seals, forms, loan agreements, condition reports, cabinet keys, and 3 active customs files balanced on a cart beside the shrink wrap machine. Nolan needs a client-facing room, Miles continues. We're launching a hospitality division. Hotels, restaurants, premium residential developments, art packages, custom fabrication, installation. The margins are better than museum work, and the sales cycle is half as long. He says it with real energy. For a moment, the office disappears, and I can see what Evelyn saw. New revenue, steadier work, crews employed through the winter. Why this room? It's the first enclosed office off the elevator. It's on the loading level, which Nolan can make feel intentional. I glance through the narrow window in my door. Outside, Omar is steering a pallet jack around a crate stenciled with the name of a Dutch lender. The crate is 7 feet long and covered in shock sensors. Clients coming down here will see work, Miles says. Process, craft. They'll feel that we make things. We don't make the loaned objects. You know what I mean. I do. I'm hoping you know the difference. His expression hardens, then softens so quickly I almost admire it. Your work is important, he says. Your room isn't. The sentence lands exactly where he intended. I started at Calder 8 years ago as a warehouse clerk on a 6-month contract. No graduate degree, no polished museum vocabulary, no family friend opening a door. I learned by staying late with registrars who could spot fresh gilding from across a room, and riggers who could tell from a crate's vibration that a bolt had worked loose inside. The first time Evelyn handed me the key to this office, she said, "You're the one everyone asks anyway." I bought the brass nameplate myself. Miles's gaze flicks toward it. "I'll give you until Friday," he says. "We'll do the move correctly." What does correctly mean? Vendor certificate, elevator reservation, approved drawings, every box checked. And the controlled intake designation? We'll amend it. That affects our facility schedule with the insurer. Then I'll speak to the insurer. Our private lender agreements name this room. Then legal will update the templates. Existing agreements. He lets out a breath through his nose. This is an office move, Mara. It is not the fall of Rome. No, Rome had more storage. His mouth twitches before he can stop it. That almost makes me like him. Then he opens the door and calls for Nolan. By 10, the textile racks arrive. Each one is shrouded in white Tyvek and shaped like a row of ghosts waiting for a bus. Omar guides them off the elevator while I check the courier's paperwork. "You get evicted?" he asks. "Temporary stay." Ruth looked happy. Ruth always looks happy when she finds an unauthorized contractor. That woman could smell an unlicensed electrician through concrete. Omar is 53, broad through the shoulders and gentle with objects in a way he rarely is with people. He glances toward the office where Nolan is photographing the walls. "You want me to drop a rack on his foot? Not one of these." Good point. Maybe the tuna. The tuna has suffered enough. At lunch, I find Evelyn in the kitchenette cutting an apple with a packing knife. She wears a navy suit over steel-toed shoes. A curl of apple peel hangs from the blade. "I heard there was some excitement," she says. "Did you approve giving Nolan my office?" She sets one slice on a paper towel. "I approved Miles making space for the hospitality team. That isn't what I asked." Her eyes lift to mine, gray, clear, tired. "Miles is responsible for staffing and facilities now." "So you knew." "I knew he was reorganizing." I wait. Evelyn cuts another slice, thinner than the first. "He should have spoken to you before the movers arrived." "He did speak to me. He said pack." Her mouth tightens. That was poorly handled. Poorly handled is what Evelyn says about cracked acrylic and missing custom stamps. It places a clean sheet over the thing. "He's moving me upstairs," I say. "We can make upstairs work." "For intake?" "For you, the distinction sits between us." She offers me an apple slice. Out of reflex, I take it. "Mara, the company needs this expansion," she says quietly. "January nearly broke us. The museum calendar is getting less predictable, and our storage costs keep climbing. Miles understands the numbers." "I understand the numbers." "I know you do, but he understands them in a suit." "That's unfair." "It is." I bite into the apple anyway. Evelyn wipes the knife and folds it closed. "Help him understand the operation. Don't make him learn by hitting every wall." He brought a tape measure. Again, that reluctant flicker of amusement. It vanishes when she sees I am not smiling. By Thursday, Miles has done everything Ruth asked. The moving company sends its certificate. Nolan produces shelving drawings that avoid the risers. Ruth approves a limited freight reservation for Friday afternoon. At 4:30, an email arrives from our insurance broker. The controlled intake designation can be transferred to another enclosed room if Calder maintains restricted access, secure file storage, environmental monitoring, and direct receiving oversight. Miles forwards it to me with one line. "Please prepare the former sample room by noon tomorrow." The former sample room is upstairs, 43 steps from receiving, and currently contains 6 broken pedestals, a rolled carpet, and the fiberglass tuna's shipping cradle. I read the email twice. He had noticed resistance, found its exact shape, and gone around it. A minute later, Nolan appears in my doorway holding a draft protocol. The pages are clean, well-designed, and dangerously short. "Miles wants your sign-off," he says. I turn to the section marked Accelerated Hospitality Intake. It removes condition photography for items valued below $10,000, allows verbal handoffs, and lets project leads bypass environmental holds to meet installation schedules. At the bottom is a blank line above my name. Nolan watches me reading. Some of the confidence has left his face. "Did you write this?" I ask. "Most of it." "Have you ever opened a crate with hidden impact damage?" "No." "Have you ever had a lender claim a scratch happened in your custody?" "No." "Have you ever watched an insurer turn the word probably into $40,000? He glances toward the hall. "Miles said this was standard." "Where?" "He said you'd push back." I take one of my yellow Tyvek tags from the stack beside the door. Date, time, humidity, courier, seal number, signatures, small boxes that look tedious until the day they become the only honest witnesses in the room. I lay the tag across his new protocol. "I'm not signing this." Nolan's eyes stay on the yellow strip. Then Miles speaks from behind him. "That," he says, "is the answer I expected." Miles steps around Nolan and enters my office without waiting to be invited. He picks up the protocol, lifts the yellow tag from it, and reads the first page. "I told Nolan you would reject any change carrying his name." "I rejected what the change does. You asked if he wrote it." "Because he's standing here." Nolan leans against the doorframe. I am still standing here. Miles ignores him. "What would you approve?" I pull a red grease pencil from my cup and circle Accelerated Hospitality Intake. Start by calling it something that doesn't promise the conclusion. Hotel art doesn't become indestructible because the client wants it by Thursday. Hotels buy replaceable work. Some do. This protocol covers all work under $10,000. One object can be worth $9,000. 100 objects can be worth $900,000. Then propose a total project threshold. I'd propose we inspect what we agree to insure. Miles lays the pages flat. You inspect the exterior of every crate regardless of risk, because that takes 4 minutes. It takes 4 of your minutes. Then Omar waits for clearance. The driver waits for a signature, receiving backs up, and somebody bills us for detention. Last month, my 4 minutes found a forklift puncture under black shrink wrap. And how often do you find nothing? Every time the system works. His smile is almost patient. "Do you hear yourself?" "Yes." Nolan pushes away from the doorframe. "Could we photograph by shipment instead of by object? Full crate exterior, seals, wide shot of the contents. Exceptions if we see damage." I look at him. He takes the pencil from my hand, crosses out verbal handoffs, and writes digital acknowledgement. Miles says, "The objective is faster intake." "That would be faster," Nolan says. "It would still create a record," I add. Miles studies his brother. Something silent passes between them, quick and familiar. Nolan sets down the pencil. "Revise it," Miles tells me. "End of day." With Nolan? "If you require supervision." Nolan's mouth flattens. I say, "I require whoever is designing the work to understand how it arrives." For 2 hours, Nolan and I argue over 7 pages. He wants project leads to release pieces from environmental holds when installation surfaces are ready. I make him walk down to storage and put his hand against a stone panel that arrived from an unheated truck. Condensation shines across it within a minute. "That's dramatic," he says. "That's physics. It's limestone. Limestone likes drama." He smiles despite himself. He shows me a proposal for Northlight Hotels, local art, custom millwork, sculptural lighting, each property designed around its neighborhood instead of repeating the same beige lobby across 12 states. His layouts are thoughtful. He has left service access around every major piece and designed replaceable mounts for the restaurant collection. These are good, I say. You sound surprised. I'm surprised you wrote a protocol that lets a project manager hang damp limestone. I wrote it for framed prints and commercial sculpture. Miles widened the scope. I look up. Nolan is already flipping to the next drawing. He has said it so casually, I'm not sure whether it is a warning, an excuse, or the ordinary habit of a younger brother who has spent years letting the older one define what happened. We finish with 2 intake tracks, both documented. The accelerated track allows shipment-level photography for approved commercial projects, but condition exceptions still stop movement. Environmental holds remain mine to release. Verbal handoffs stay crossed out. Miles returns the draft at 5:17 with the environmental hold language removed. I put it back in. At 5:24, he removes it again. At 5:31, I send him a photograph of moisture blooming across the limestone. He doesn't reply. Friday morning, Nolan's insured movers arrive at 9. They have a reserved elevator, blue floor protection, and Ruth's approved drawings in a clear plastic sleeve. Ruth inspects every page anyway. Looks legal, she says to me. Disappointing. The former sample room upstairs is still full when I unlock it. Nobody has cleared the pedestals. The tuna cradle rests on its side beneath the rolled carpet, its braces rising like ribs. Paula appears with a label maker and an apologetic expression. Miles thought facilities was handling this. We are facilities. I thought Omar was facilities. Omar is lead rigger. I thought you were operations. So did I. Paula stops peeling the backing from a label. What do you want the room called? Former sample room. I don't think he'll like that. Put controlled intake office. That's 24 characters. We settle on intake records. Omar and I spend the morning shifting broken pedestals into storage. At 11:40, Miles passes the open door, sees us lifting, and asks why receiving is behind. At noon, the private lender files are locked upstairs. The meter and camera stay with me downstairs because the objects do. Miles solves that contradiction by ordering a folding table for the receiving bay. It arrives in a box with a picture of a cheerful family picnic printed on the side. Omar unfolds it beneath the industrial label printer. Every time someone prints a shipping label, the machine wakes with a hard mechanical cough and shakes the table. Executive suite, he says. Open concept. Good natural forklift light. I set out my meter, camera, seals, and yellow tags. There is no drawer for the grease pencils, so I keep them in a chipped mug that says, "Handle with care." Evelyn gave it to me after my first year. At 2, the movers carry my desk past the table. Nolan follows, one hand resting on the blanket to keep it from catching on a rack. He stops when he sees where I'm sitting. This is temporary, right? Everything is. He looks toward the stairs, where Miles is speaking to a photographer about arrival sightlines. I asked for an office, Nolan says quietly. I didn't ask for yours. You measured it fast. His face colors. That was unfair, I say. It was accurate. He goes after the desk. By Monday, walnut samples lean against my old wall. By Wednesday, the brass rails arrive. Nolan keeps my dented steel cabinet because it is too heavy to move without another elevator reservation. He covers it with linen and puts a ceramic lamp on top. My nameplate disappears. I find out about my new title from Tessa Vale. She comes down to receiving with 2 coffees and a printout from the employee portal. Tessa has worked dispatch for 3 years and can reroute a truck around a parade, a bridge closure, and a driver's bad attitude without raising her voice. She wears bright sneakers with office clothes and writes every appointment in purple ink. Did you know you're an operations coordinator now? She asks. I take the printout. My salary is unchanged. My reporting line is not. Instead of reporting to Evelyn as collections logistics manager, I now report to Miles through a new position called Hospitality Operations Lead. The lead position is blank. Tessa slides a coffee toward me. Maybe the portal ate your real title. The portal would need teeth. You want me to ask Paula? No, thank you. She stays beside the table, shifting her weight. Tessa wants the blank position. The wanting is so clear it feels impolite to look directly at it. "Did Miles talk to you?" I ask. "About some opportunities?" "Congratulations." "Nothing's decided." "Then premature congratulations." She taps one purple fingernail against the paper. "He said the company needs people who are comfortable moving quickly." "Are you?" "Yes." The answer comes too fast, but the second one doesn't. "I think I can be." Miles confirms the title change that afternoon. He calls it alignment. "You changed my role without discussing it." "I clarified the work you're already doing. You removed collections. We are broadening beyond collections. You put me under a job that doesn't exist. It will. And if I don't want to report to whoever fills it?" His gaze goes to Tessa's purple notes on the dispatch board, then back to me. "Titles are not monuments, Mara." "No, monuments get condition reports." He laughs once, unexpectedly. Then he reaches into a folder and pushes a compensation sheet across his desk. The hospitality expansion comes with performance bonuses. Mine depends on intake times, on-schedule releases, and departmental cooperation. The words look objective until I see who decides whether I have cooperated. "Sign that you received it," he says. "I received it." "You don't want to read it?" "I'll read it before I sign. I'm not asking you to agree. You handed me a signature line." For a second, his annoyance shows cleanly. Then he leans back. "Evelyn says you built half the operating systems here." Evelyn is generous when she wants someone else to have a difficult conversation. "She also says you take resistance personally." That sounds enough like her to hurt. Miles folds his hands. "I don't need you to like me. I need you to decide whether you want to help build the next version of this company or spend your energy defending the furniture from the old one." He believes that is the choice. I can see it in him, along with something more complicated: impatience, ambition, and the very real fear that if Northlight fails, Evelyn's faith in him will become a costly mistake. "I'm defending the record," I say. "Then make the record faster." Northlight signs 10 days later. The first order covers 3 properties: framed prints, carved wood screens, ceramic murals, and locally fabricated metalwork. Nolan's presentation room fills with samples. Clients come off the elevator and stop at the walnut shelves exactly as Miles predicted. The work is profitable. Nolan standardizes mount designs and cuts fabrication waste. Miles negotiates deposits large enough to cover materials. Tessa becomes hospitality operations lead and builds a color-coded dispatch board that is easier to read than mine. On the first Northlight shipment, we use the accelerated protocol Nolan and I revised. The driver leaves 12 minutes faster than usual. The photographs are clear. Every seal is recorded. Nothing goes wrong. On the second, nothing goes wrong faster. By the fourth, even Omar stops muttering about hotel time. I begin to wonder whether I have mistaken being bypassed for being endangered. Then a truck carrying Celeste Mora's ceramic mural gets trapped behind an overturned tanker on Interstate 95. It arrives at 8:30 on a Thursday night, 6 hours late. Tessa calls my cell while I am washing a dinner plate. "Northlight has installers at the Harbor Crown tomorrow morning," she says. "Miles wants us to receive tonight." "I'll come in." A pause. "He said you're already in overtime." "Who's checking it?" "Me and Nolan." "Has either of you handled a multi-panel ceramic work?" Another pause. "We have the protocol." The line goes quiet except for paper, moving beneath her hand. "Tessa, don't backdate the arrival." "I didn't say anything about backdating." "You didn't have to." Her breath catches. "Miles says the shipping window closed at 5. If it shows as arriving tomorrow, Northlight can charge us for delaying installation." "It arrived tonight." "He wants me to enter it at 4:52. I put down the plate. "Use the actual time. Photograph every face before you release the crate. If Miles objects, tell him to put the instruction in writing. He'll know you told me." He already knows what I'd tell you. When I reach Calder, the loading bay is open to the cold. The truck is backed crooked against the dock, exhaust hanging beneath the security lights. The mural crate sits inside with its yellow tag dangling from the handle. Tessa has written 8:37 p.m. in purple ink. Miles stands beside her. He looks at the time, then at me. "Take that tag off," he says. "Now." Tessa's fingers close around the yellow tag. "Leave it," I say. Miles keeps his eyes on her. "The official receiving time will be entered tomorrow morning." That tag will confuse the record. It is the record. The shipment missed its contracted window because of a highway closure. Then Northlight can decide whether that excuses the delay. They don't need to decide anything. We absorbed it. The driver has stepped down from the dock and is pretending to examine a tire. Nolan stands at the far end of the crate with a flashlight checking the bottom battens. Tessa lets go of the tag. Miles turns to me. "I didn't ask you to come in." "Tessa did." His gaze moves to her. "I said I might need help," she says. "Do you?" She looks at the crate, then at the purple time on the tag. "Yes." The word seems to surprise her. Miles takes his phone from his pocket. "Fine, receive it. Since we are now paying 2 people overtime to inspect 1 wooden box, I expect it ready for installation in an hour." "No," I say. "The hotel crew is waiting. The mural traveled 11 hours in an unheated truck. It has to acclimate before we open it." "It's ceramic. So is a coffee mug. Pour boiling water into one you just pulled from a freezer and see how much it cares about your schedule." Nolan walks over. "How long?" "Minimum 8 hours before opening. Longer if the interior reading is low." Miles looks at him. "You agree with that?" Nolan rubs the graphite stain on the side of his thumb. It's glazed ceramic mounted to aluminum panels. The materials will expand at different rates. "Wonderful. A coalition." He walks away to call the hotel. We photograph every side of the crate. The exterior has 2 scuffs and a crushed patch on 1 skid, but the shock indicators are clear. Their centers remain white. I make sure Tessa gets close photographs with the timestamp visible. When we slide the probe through the access port, the interior temperature reads 38 degrees. Tessa whistles. Coffee mug. Big expensive coffee mug. Nolan adds a portable monitor and wheels the crate into acclimation storage. He ties a second yellow tag beside Tessa's, noting the hold time. Miles ends his call near the dock door. "Northlight will accept a 10 o'clock delivery," he says. "That gives you 13 hours. It gives the crate 13 hours. His gaze settles on me. "Your bonus metrics start this quarter." My answer still starts with no. He leaves before I can see whether that lands. The next morning, the crate interior reaches 65 degrees. Nolan and I open it together. 12 hand-painted ceramic panels sit in foam-lined slots. Their blue and rust-colored surfaces separated by tissue. We inspect each face and edge under raking light. All 12 are intact. Tessa photographs them, then starts attaching numbered tags to the individual wrapping sleeves. Nolan stops her. "Can we lose those for the process shots?" "What process shots?" "Northlight's marketing team wants behind-the-scenes photos. The yellow clashes with the palette." Tessa stares at him. "I'll put them back," he says. "The tags are tied to the sleeves. I can untie string." I should refuse. Instead, I look at the client photographer waiting beside the bay with a camera on her shoulder and think about Miles's bonus metrics, Evelyn's Apple knife, and 4 shipments where the accelerated system worked. "Photograph each tag in place first," I say. "Keep each one with its panel." Nolan unties them and hands them to Tessa in order. She loops the cotton strings around her fingers. The photographer gets her clean images. Nolan keeps his promise and reties the tags himself. At 10:15, Northlight postpones delivery until 4 because the hotel's service corridor is blocked by a kitchen equipment shipment. At 4, the freight elevator is reserved for another tenant. "We can take the mural tomorrow," I say. "The installers leave tonight," Miles says. Ruth will allow an after-hours freight move with advance notice, but the building engineer who operates the loading gate has already gone home. Miles calls Ruth twice. She does not answer. At 4:40, I leave to retrieve the customs files for a private collection arriving upstairs. When I come back down, the acclimation bay is empty. Omar is standing beside my folding table. Your hotel people took the mural. Through what? He points upward, the passenger elevator. Its ceiling is 8 inches lower than the mural crate standing on its shipping base. I run to the lobby. The elevator is on the first floor. When it rises again, Nolan is inside with Tessa and 2 installers. The crate is tilted against the back wall. One shock indicator is red. For one suspended second, nobody moves. Then Nolan looks at it. It brushed the header, he says. How hard? It didn't fall. That isn't what I asked. The base caught when we angled it. Tessa is pale. I told them to wait. Miles appears at the end of the corridor. The van is outside. I point to the indicator. It needs to be reopened. We inspected it this morning. It has taken an impact since then. We don't have time. Nolan steps out of the elevator. Mara's right. Miles stops beside him. Can you install it? I can install it if it's intact. Then find out at the hotel. The installers are billing by the hour. I put my hand on the crate handle. If it leaves without inspection, note that I refused release. Miles's face goes still. You no longer have release authority over hospitality shipments. The protocol you approved says I do. I approved project lead discretion. You removed the environmental hold language. You didn't remove damage holds. He turns to Tessa. As hospitality operations lead, release it. Tessa looks at me, then at the red indicator. I need that instruction in writing, she says. The lobby seems to shrink around us. Miles takes out his phone, types, and sends the email. Tessa reads it. Her mouth tightens. Then she signs the release. At 9 the next morning, Nolan comes down to receiving, carrying a broken piece of blue ceramic wrapped in a hotel towel. He places it on my folding table with both hands. 3 panels fractured along their mounting edges. From the front, the damage was nearly invisible until the installers lifted them. The hotel's facilities director stopped the installation and photographed everything. Miles's incident report says the mural was inadequately packed and likely damaged during warehouse handling. Omar reads the report over my shoulder. Inadequately packed, he says. That crate could survive re-entry. Tessa says nothing. She's standing beside the dispatch board, winding a short loop of cotton string around one finger. The receiving photographs show intact panels, I say. They show the faces, Miles says. The fractures were along the backs. We inspected the backs. Then perhaps the damage occurred when the panels were returned to the crate. By whom? You and Nolan. Nolan, standing near his new walnut shelves, lifts his head. I didn't return them. You handled them. We all handled them. Miles gives him a look sharp enough to cut paper. That is when Tessa crosses the room and places 4 yellow tags on my desk. The cotton ties have been cut. I found these in my drawer last night, she says. Nolan frowns. I retied all 12. You retied 8. The photographer asked you to remove 4 again after Mara went upstairs. The 4 tags correspond to the fractured panels. Miles says, tags don't prevent damage. No, I say. They show the handoff chain. I open the photo folder. Before the marketing shots, all 12 tags are tied in place. In the last set, 4 are gone. The timestamp is 20 minutes after I left the bay. Nolan pulls out his phone. I took a video for the hotel designer. His video shows the back of each panel while he explains the mounting system. No cracks. The 4 untagged panels are visible on a padded cart beside him. That was at 11:12, I say. The elevator impact was 4:43, Tessa says. How do you know? I wrote it down. Miles looks at her as if he is meeting the woman he promoted for the first time. Ruth answers my email within 6 minutes. She comes upstairs carrying a printed elevator log and her paper cup. The security video shows Nolan's team tilting the crate, striking the header, lowering it, and trying again. The time matches Tessa's note. Ruth's log confirms that Calder had no passenger elevator authorization for freight. Miles reads the document standing at the same spot where he once watched my nameplate come off. This doesn't prove when the panel's cracked, he says. No, I say. It proves the claim cannot honestly blame warehouse handling. What do you want? Correct the incident report before it goes to the insurer. Tell Northlight the shipment left after a recorded impact without reinspection. That turns a disputed claim into our liability. It is our liability. It could cost us the account. It could. Evelyn arrives while we are still standing there. She takes in the broken ceramic, the tags, the elevator log, and Miles's report. Conference room, she says. We spend 90 minutes with the door closed. Nolan admits the crate struck the elevator. Tessa admits she released it on Miles's written instruction. I explain the tags and photographs. Miles does not deny any fact. He argues that the damage could have happened earlier and that disclosing an unproven conclusion would prejudice the claim. Evelyn listens with her hands folded. Finally, she turns to me. What do you recommend? Correct the sequence. Send the evidence. Don't state what we can't prove. Miles says, and when Northlight walks? They'll walk faster if their facilities director sends them the video first. He looks toward the window. That is the moment he realizes I have given him a way out instead of a weapon. He corrects the report. Northlight does not leave. They charge Calder for replacement panels and delay the opening by 3 days. Nolan redesigns the mounting edges so the replacement can be installed without removing the full mural. It is clever, fast, and painful for him to be proud of. Miles pays the claim from the project contingency. Then he finds quieter ways to collect from me. My quarterly bonus is denied for failure to meet release targets. My overtime is capped. Omar is reassigned to fabrication on hospitality days, leaving me with temporary technicians who do not know the lender agreements. Miles begins holding planning meetings at 8 in Nolan's office, while I am scheduled in receiving. Evelyn calls the bonus decision contractually defensible. Is it fair? I ask. She looks down at her desk. Fair is difficult to put in a compensation plan. So is backbone. She flinches. I regret it immediately. I do not take it back. For several weeks, the hotel division recovers. Replacement panels arrive. Nolan's mural is installed and photographed beneath warm lobby lights, the repaired edges hidden behind his new brackets. Northlight praises the result. Then a carved wood screen bows after being stored beside a heating vent. A borrowed textile reaches a restaurant wall beneath an HVAC diffuser, despite a lender note requiring still air. Each problem is corrected before it becomes a claim. Each correction costs overtime. Miles says we cannot afford. Omar starts photographing every hardware package after purchasing substitutes lighter anchors for Nolan's specifications. Paperwork hobby, he says whenever Miles passes. Tessa keeps her original dispatch sheets in a purple folder instead of discarding them after entry. And I keep every yellow tag. The glass sculpture arrives in 6 crates on a rain-heavy Tuesday. It is designed to hang above Northlight's flagship atrium, 32 curved pieces suspended from a steel armature. Nolan's drawings are beautiful. Omar's load calculations are missing from the installation folder. Nolan finds me under the label printer. Miles promised the hotel we'd hang Friday. Structural approval isn't back. He says the engineer approved it verbally. Which engineer? He didn't say. I hold out my hand. Release sheet. Nolan gives it to me. My reduced title is printed beneath the signature line. By noon, Miles is standing across from my folding table. Sign it, he says. Put Omar's calculations back in the file and get written structural approval. The hotel has a facilities engineer. Then his signature should be easy. We lose the installation window if we wait. Then we lose it. His face changes. Not anger exactly. Decision. If you refuse a direct instruction, I will suspend you. The label printer coughs above us. My chipped mug trembles, and the red grease pencil taps against the rim. I think of the bonus already gone, the overtime I need, Evelyn refusing to name what she knows, and my brass nameplate vanished into some drawer. Then I slide the unsigned release back across the table. Miles takes it. Go home, Mara, he says, effective immediately. I reach for the chipped mug. Miles puts one hand on the table. Leave company property. The mug is mine. He looks at the faded handle with care lettering, then removes his hand. I slide the red grease pencil into the mug, gather my purse, and walk upstairs for my coat. My badge still opens the stairwell, but Paula is waiting outside intake records with an envelope and the expression of someone who has been assigned a task she hates. "I need your keys and badge," she says. "Who's covering receiving?" "I don't know." 6 glass crates are on environmental hold. I know. The release times are on the yellow tags. The meter needs to remain with the center crate until all 6 stabilize. Nobody opens anything before the temperatures are within 5 degrees. She writes this on the back of Miles's suspension letter. "Can you sign my copy?" I ask. Paula looks up. "That I told you." Her eyes close for half a second. Then she signs and dates both copies. My office key is still on the ring, even though I haven't had an office in weeks. I work it loose and place it in her palm with the others. Outside, the rain has thinned to cold mist. From the parking lot, I can see the third-floor windows and the pale squares of Nolan's samples arranged under track lighting. The loading bay door is open below them. Somebody has left the dock plate down. I almost go back to tell them. Instead, I get in my car. At home, I set the chipped mug on my kitchen table and read the suspension letter. Insubordination, operational delay, refusal to perform assigned duties. The letter says I can submit a written response to Evelyn by Friday at noon. My first attempt is 4 sentences long and furious. My second is 11 pages. At midnight, I delete both. I have spent years telling people that a record should describe what happened, not what the person writing it wishes had happened. So I open a blank document and begin with the date Miles's movers entered the building without authorization. I list the room change, the lease rider, the protocol revisions, the title change, the altered bonus terms, the mural's arrival time, the missing tags, the elevator impact, the corrected claim, the denied bonus, the shortened staffing, the substituted anchors, and the missing load calculations for the glass sculpture. Beside every entry, I identify where the supporting record should be found. Ruth's freight elevator log, Tessa's dispatch archive, Nolan's video, Omar's hardware photographs, purchasing revisions, Miles's written direction to release the mural after impact, my email returning the environmental hold language to the protocol. By 3 a.m, the chronology is 8 pages. It doesn't call Miles reckless. It shows when he was warned, what he changed after the warning, and who inherited the risk. The hardest section is the last one. Conditions for return. Written authority to stop movement for documented condition, environmental or structural concerns. Direct access to the insurer and client facilities contacts. Control over intake staffing. Restoration of my title, pay, bonus, and reporting line. I stare at the list. Then I delete restoration of my title. Collections. Logistics manager belongs to a company that no longer exists. Miles is right about that much. I replace it with director of collections and installation operations. The words make me laugh once, alone in my kitchen. They look impossible on the screen. I leave them there. At 9 the next morning, Evelyn calls. "Did you send anything to Northlight?" she asks. "Not yet." Good. The relief in her voice tells me Miles has already spoken to her. I'm preparing my response. "You are suspended, Mara. You should not contact clients." The glass release sheet has my name on it. If someone uses it without my signature, I will correct the record. Silence. Then she says, "Miles believes Omar's calculation is overly conservative." Based on what? Nolan revised the armature. Did a structural engineer approve the revision? I'm trying to establish that. The answer is no. Her breath comes softly through the phone. "Send me what you have." My access is disabled. I'll have Paula provide the relevant documents. All of them? A longer silence. "All of them," she says. Paula sends a secure folder before 10. It contains my emails, the protocols, the mural incident file, purchasing changes, the glass project folder, and the last 6 weeks of meeting notes. Tessa's original dispatch sheets are missing. Omar's first load calculation is missing too. I email Paula a list of omissions. 15 minutes later, 2 files appear. The dispatch sheets are scans from a purple folder. The load calculation is a photograph taken on Omar's workbench, his thumb visible in one corner. At 11:20, Nolan calls. I let it ring once before answering. "Did you send the glass release to Northlight?" He asks. "No." "Someone did." "Signed?" "No." "Miles told them your suspension removed the internal hold. It didn't remove gravity." "I know." In the background, I hear the metallic echo of the loading bay. "Are they opening the crates?" "Yes. Temperature." "Stable." "Good. Is Omar there?" He won't unload the armature. A door closes on Nolan's end. His voice drops. Miles told him Tessa would sign the installation packet. "Will she?" "No." There is a tiredness in that one word I haven't heard from Nolan before. "Mara, I revised the armature after the hotel changed the ceiling layout. The total weight is lower. The load paths changed." "I know." "Did you give Omar the revision?" "I gave it to Miles. He said he'd get the engineer's approval." "When?" "Last Thursday. Before the mural claim. Before my bonus. Before Miles stood at my table pretending the missing approval was a scheduling problem." "Put that in writing," I say. "He's my brother." "I know." You say that like it makes the answer easier. It makes the cost clearer. He is quiet for several seconds. "I asked him for one room," he says. "I told him I could sell the hotel concept if clients saw a real design space. He said your office was wasted on paperwork. The old hurt arrives with less force than I expect." "You could have said no." "I could have." "Say what happened with the armature." He ends the call without promising. At 11:54, I send my response to Evelyn. I copy Miles because the suspension letter says I may respond to management. I copy our insurance broker because I remain the named facility contact on the active policy schedule, a detail Miles managed to overlook while changing my internal title. I copy Dana Cho, Northlight's facilities director, because her approval is listed as pending on the installation release. Ruth receives the section involving building access and loading. I attach the chronology and my return conditions. The email contains no threat. It ends with one sentence. Until the required structural approval is documented, I cannot certify or participate in the installation. At 12:07, Dana replies to everyone. Northlight is postponing the installation. At 12:12, our insurance broker asks Calder to confirm that no overhead work will proceed and requests the mural incident records. At 12:16, Ruth writes that the glass armature cannot travel through the freight elevator without a rigging plan and reserved building engineer. At 12:19, Miles calls me. I let it go to voicemail. He does not call again. Evelyn asks me to meet her at Calder the next morning. Paula gives me a visitor badge that expires at noon. The walnut shelves in Nolan's office are lit. A scale model of the flagship atrium sits on my old desk. Tiny transparent pieces hang above a miniature lobby, each one suspended from thread. Miles is in the conference room with Evelyn, Nolan, Tessa, Omar, and a woman I recognize from the hotel's mural emails as Dana Cho. Ruth sits at the end of the table with her paper cup. My suspension letter lies in front of the empty chair. Miles looks as if he has slept in his clothes. Nolan does not look at him. Evelyn begins before I sit down. Northlight wants the contract to continue, she says. Dana has agreed to discuss revised operating terms. Dana folds her hands on the table. The design work is strong. The documentation has become unreliable. Miles says, "We corrected the mural report. After your employee brought us the elevator record. I brought it to management," I say. Ruth supplied the elevator record. Dana nods once. "After your operations manager documented the discrepancy." "Coordinator," Miles says. Everyone looks at him. His face colors. Evelyn slides a folder toward Dana. The glass installation will resume after written structural approval, a revised rigging plan, and a facilities review. "And a named operations authority," Dana says. "Someone who can stop a release without losing her chair." The room goes very still. Ruth takes a drink of coffee. Miles says, "Personnel decisions are internal." "Then keep them internal," Dana says. "My building will not accept objects released under disputed authority." Nolan places a printed email on the table. "I sent Miles the revised armature last Thursday," he says. "He told me approval was in progress. Yesterday, he asked me to describe the revision as non-structural, so the hotel engineer could review it after installation." Miles turns to him. "I asked you whether it could be classified as non-structural. You told me what answer you needed." "I was trying to preserve your project." "No, you were trying to preserve Friday." The two brothers hold each other's gaze. There is anger there, but also a private grief with a much older shape. Tessa opens her purple folder. "Miles asked me to replace late dispatch times on 3 Northlight shipments," she says. "I changed one entry, then changed it back. These are the originals." "Why didn't you raise this sooner?" Evelyn asks. Tessa's eyes flick toward me. "Because I wanted the promotion." The honesty makes Evelyn lean back. Omar slides his photographs across the table. The original anchors sit beside the lighter substitutes purchasing ordered after Miles approved a cost reduction. He has labeled each photograph with the project number, date, and purchase revision. "I'll install Nolan's design," he says. "It's a good design. I won't hang it from hardware that wasn't in my calculation." Miles looks around the table. "This is being framed as misconduct because people dislike change." "No," I say. "It's being recorded as a pattern because you change the record when the work resists you." He turns to me. "You copied a client on an internal dispute." "I copied the person whose ceiling you wanted my name to release. You could have called me. You suspended me for giving you the answer." His hand closes around a pen. He sets it down before it can betray him further. Evelyn has been silent long enough that the room begins to wait for her. Her hands are wrapped around each other on the tabletop. "I hired Miles because I was afraid," she says. Miles looks at her. "January was worse than I told the staff. We had enough cash, but not enough certainty. The museum side was shrinking, and I kept believing loyalty would somehow become a growth plan." She turns to him. "You brought us one. You were right about hospitality." The tension in his shoulders loosens slightly. "You were also right that some of our systems had become habits," she continues. "But you treated every limit as disobedience. When the facts did not support the schedule, you moved the facts. I protected the company. You protected the version where you were never wrong." He looks toward Nolan, perhaps expecting resistance to that sentence. Nolan studies the model of the glass sculpture through the conference room window. Evelyn opens a second folder. "Miles, effective today, you will have no authority over operations, safety releases, insurance reporting, or installation staffing. You may remain through the contract transition as commercial director under my supervision." His laugh is quiet and bitter. "You think I'm going to sell work I'm not allowed to run?" "I think that is the role available." "And Nolan?" Nolan answers for himself. "I'm finishing the designs under an outside contract." "You're walking away from the division we built?" "I'm taking my name off the instructions I didn't give." Miles nods slowly, once. He pushes his chair back. "You'll all discover that procedures don't make payroll." He leaves the pen on the table and walks out. Through the glass, I watch him pass the walnut shelves without looking at them. The revised Northlight agreement takes 6 days. Dana adds documented approval gates. Ruth approves a standing freight schedule. The insurer keeps our coverage after reviewing the corrected mural file and the new reporting structure. Miles stays for 3 of those days. On the 4th, Paula collects his badge. Calder does not become easy. The replacement ceramic panels cost more than the project contingency. The postponed glass crew charges a cancellation fee. We lose a restaurant installation because the new review schedule is too slow for its opening date. We keep Northlight. We also keep the employees who had begun quietly checking whether their names appeared on documents they had never seen. Evelyn offers me Director of Collections and Installation Operations in writing. The authority language matches my conditions. My suspension is removed from my record. The lost pay and denied bonus appear in the next deposit. I read the agreement twice. Then I ask for Tessa to remain hospitality operations lead, reporting to me. Tessa looks startled when I tell her. I helped him move your work, she says. You also kept the strings. That doesn't erase the first part. No, it gives you something useful to remember. I decline my old office. Instead, Ruth approves glass partitions around a section of the loading level beside receiving. The new operations room has a clear view of the dock, secure cabinets, space for 2 desks, and a door wide enough for a rolling textile rack. On my first morning back, Tessa ties a fresh yellow Tyvek tag to the cabinet handle. She writes the date in purple ink. I add the humidity and both our initials with a red grease pencil. Across the hall, Ruth supervises as movers remove Nolan's walnut shelves. One carries the ceramic lamp. Another carries the linen covering from the dented steel cabinet. The last mover comes out holding my old brass nameplate. Miles is there to collect a portfolio Nolan left behind. He sees the nameplate in the mover's hands and steps aside. The mover looks at me. Where does this go? I take it from him. The brass is scratched where the screws were pulled that first Monday. My name is still clear. I set it inside the secure cabinet and close the glass door. Then Tessa hands me the next yellow tag and the freight elevator chimes.